We're getting closer to the end of the 13th Doctor era, and I'm hopeful that this era comes to a satisfying conclusion, but I'm highly doubtful in that. There's just too much to wrap up in a single special. I am hoping that it will be given the proper amount of time, and what Russell T did say about it being 90 minutes, I hope is true, because it definitely needs it, because we all saw what happened with Legends of the Sea Devils. Now, I don't think this entire era is bad. I've seen it way worse. There's some really good moments in this era, but it's really bogged down by the bad moments. This really has caused this era to just become underwhelming for me. I was excited when Jodie was first announced. I was really impressed with her performance in Broadchurch. She brought a lot to that role, and I was hoping that she could bring that same performance to the Doctor. And I will say, she has done a decent job in this role. She's just, let down by a lack of decent writing. She's giving her all, and I really admire that. She's brought a lot of energy and enthusiasm to the Doctor, and I will remember that out of this entire era. Speaking of writing, I will wholeheartedly admit that I am not a huge fan of Chris Chibnall as a writer. I don't think he was the right choice for showrunner. I was impressed with his very first story of this era. I thought it did a solid job at introducing the 13th Doctor and her new companions. I also did like how the Doctor was left without a TARDIS. It switched things up a bit. However, I find myself not remembering a whole lot about this era. For me, it's overly forgettable, and I just think the pandemic is the main problem, because I think that just felt like it changed his overall plans for the series. This era, however, did give me one of my favorite companions. Graham is the best part of this whole era, and I wish he was a solo companion and not part of a group of 3. Now, speaking of that, I guess, this era has just too big of a TARDIS team. It hurts the character development, and it's hard to balance each of them in a 50-minute episode. The first Doctor, second, and fifth did have 3 companions, but that was manageable because of multi-part stories. There's a lot more time for development of each of the characters in every story. I also think that it was not helpful for the 13th Doctor, because we have to develop her as a character, but now we have all these other characters and companions to look at. It just creates a very unbalanced series. Another positive, I will say, is the Dalek trilogy. It did things a little bit different. Come on, time loops and Daleks, that was awesome. And speaking of returning monsters, that was so solid. Some of these ideas were a little bit different, and they tried to do something different with these classic Doctor Who foes that we have seen before. And also, that Sontaran redesign was amazing. It was very classic, but also mixed with the new. I also liked the Return of the Weeping Angels in Flux. It was a very good story. Now, the original Monsters creations are a completely different story. Series 11, to me, did not have strong foes for the Doctor to face. I could go on a whole rant about the Ting or the Rags, but I'm not. Now, Tim Shaw, for example, he was a fine one-off appearance. It was good for the first story, but I don't think he was a true series, finale villain for the Doctor. I don't think that was a good choice. The Kerpland Man was one of my personal favorites. And by the point we are now in series 12 and 13, I can say it did a good job at mixing the old and the new. For example, it brought back the Master and the Cybermen, but then we also got these new creations, which I thought was the Swarm. And the Division is a very good creation, and their leader, I enjoyed that. This era is just underwhelming for me, and it became an afterthought most of the time. I wasn't excited to watch the show each week. And maybe that's because, Doctor Who is not my main show anymore. There's so much content out there. Who knows? I hope the new Russell T Davies era improves that for me, and I'll do a future video talking about my favorite episodes of this era once it comes to a close next month. I also can say, I didn't mention this, promotion. I think that also hurt it. This era has just a lack of promotion, and you just kind of forget that's going to be back, and then there's some gaps, which also is due to the pandemic, for Series 13. That does cause a problem. Well, that's it for tonight. What is your thoughts on the 13th Doctor era? Tell me them in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone.